Hey guys, this is Trig Day 7. So today we're going to sketch an angle and we're going to find a positive and negative coterminal angle. Okay, so when we're sketching, I want you guys to remember that on my axis, okay, for our degrees, we start at 0 degrees on the right, and then we work our way around this way, making almost like a C. Okay, so I always start at 0 degrees, and then up here is my 90 degrees, over here is 180, over here is 270, and then we go back to 360, and we keep working our way around if our angle is larger than that. And remember, positive is going up and around this way, negative is going down and around that way. Okay, so if we're going, let's say positive 90, I start here and I end there. Okay, so that's how we sketch. And then for coterminal angles, it kind of has what it means in the name. Co means together, terminal means where it stops. So they stop in the same spot. So if I have 90 degrees, let's say, I'm going to draw it over here. I'm going to use some different colors here. So if I want to draw 90 degrees, actually, let's make it easier one. Let's say 40 degrees. I can say I'm starting here and then I'm going up this way. Okay, so there's my 40 degrees. Now there's a whole bunch of other ways that I can start here and end up here. I don't necessarily have to go this way. What if I went backwards? And I went that way. Okay, so if I'm looking for a coterminal angle, I know that this whole thing is 360 degrees, but I'm not using this 40 degrees here. So I know I'm going in the opposite direction, so I know it has to be negative. And I'm going almost 360 degrees, but I'm going 40 less than 360. So I'm taking 360, I'm subtracting 40, and I got 320 degrees. So negative 320 degrees could be another way to name that angle. Okay, and those are coterminal, right? It's the same angle, it's just a different way to name it. And then there's another way that I can go is, what if I start here and I go all the way around and I go a little bit extra? Okay, so let's think about how far I went there. I went a whole time around, so that's 360 degrees, plus I went that extra 40. So that's positive because I'm going counterclockwise. I'm going the direction that I'm supposed to be going. And then I took 360 and I added 40 to it. So that's another degree measure that could be 400 degrees. And I can do that as many times as I want. I could keep spinning 10 times around and then I could end up at the same spot. So in order to do that, let's think about what we did for the red here. That's our going backwards. That's our negative one. Is I took 40 and I subtracted it from 360 because 360 would be the whole way around, but I don't want that little bit of angle there. So I subtracted 320 here. For 400, I added 360 to my 40 because I wanted to go an extra full rotation around. Okay, and for the negative, I could keep doing that too. I could take it and I could keep subtracting 360. I could keep adding 360. So to find a coterminal angle, you are either adding or subtracting 360 degrees. Okay, because that's a full rotation. So to draw, we need to make sure that we are starting at 0 and then we're going, if it's positive, we are going counterclockwise. If it's negative, we are going clockwise. Okay, to find our coterminal angles, you're just adding or subtracting 360 degrees. So let's look at some examples here. Let's look at if I have 112 degrees. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to sketch it. And your sketches don't have to be perfect. They're obviously, you're not gonna like actually measure it with a protractor. You're just showing, okay, where is it going to fall? So remember, I always start at 0 degrees. So here's my first side right here at 0 degrees. And then I'm going 112 degrees. So 112 is between 90 and 180, and it's a little closer to 90. So I'm gonna end up right here. Okay, so there to there, there's my 112 degrees. Okay. So now I just need to find a coterminal angle. I need to find one that's positive and one that's negative. So I'm going to do 112 plus 360. and that'll give me a bigger positive. That means I'm going around an extra full time. Instead of just going from 0 to 112, I'm saying, okay, I'm gonna go past it, and then I'm gonna hit it again. So when I add those together, I get 472 degrees. Remember your degree symbols in there. And then I'm also going to subtract 360. That's going to be giving me my negative coterminal angle. So I'm going to do 112 minus 360, and I get negative 248 degrees. So there's my two angles for that one. Okay. Question number 2. We're going to do 550 degrees. Okay, so this one is above 360, right? So we know that we're going to go a whole time around plus maybe a little more. Okay, so for this one, to draw this, I would actually find my coterminal angles first. So I have 550 degrees. I don't want to add 360 because I want to get smaller, right? So I'm going to subtract 360 here. I could add 360 to get a bigger positive number, but I eventually want to get a negative answer, so I'm going to have to subtract. So I'm going to do 550 minus 360, and I get 190. And then I can do that again. So I can do 190 minus 360 to get my other negative answer here. And then I'm going to subtract 360 again, and I get negative 170. So you can add 360, you can subtract 360 as many times as you want. It doesn't matter. But you want to try to get numbers, like you don't want to add 360 10 times, right? Because it would be a coterminal angle, but that angle is huge and it doesn't really tell us any information. But you can add it, you can subtract it as many times as you want. I could add 360 to this. I could subtract 360 from it. I could keep going as long as you are doing it in groups of 360. So now I have 190 is one of the coterminal angles. So that's going to be actually easier for me to draw because I know where 190 is. It's past 180. And it's about right here. So remember, we're always starting at 0. Here is 190 degrees. Now I just need to figure out, okay, for 550, that's positive. So I'm going in this direction. That's only 190. So I need to keep going, and I'm going to end right there. So it's a full spin around plus a little bit more, okay? So use your coterminal angle to help you figure out like where the end is of your angle, and then just figure out, okay, how many times did I spin around? I spun around a whole time there plus that extra 190. Okay, so there's our answer for that one. Okay, so now we are going to go into starting with some radians instead of degrees. So we're going to start with, this is question number 3, 3 pi over 8. So we just started learning about radians. I don't know where that radian is, so I want to change that into degrees. So we're going to do exactly what we did yesterday. We're going to multiply by 180 over pi so that my pi's cancel out. I'm doing negative 3 times 180, and I'm dividing it by 8, and I get negative 67.5. Okay, so you could find your coterminal angle here first. But this one's actually pretty easy to do because it's just negative 67.5. So instead of going in the positive direction, I'm going to go in the negative direction, 67 degrees. So I'm going to be right there. There's my angle. Okay, so I'm starting at 0 and I'm going negative 67.5 degrees. So there are 2 things we can do for this to find our coterminal angles. One of the big things is if they give you an angle in radians, that means they also want their answer in radians. So if we're adding 360 we found is the same as 2 pi. So I can add 2 pi to each of these, or I could add 360, and then I could turn it back into a radian, but that's a little extra work. So if you want to do it that way, you can do it that way where you add 360 and then convert it back. I'm going to show you a way to do it with fractions, which I know is everyone's favorite, but this one's actually pretty easy. So we're doing negative 3 pi over 8, and I want to add 360, right? So I want to add 2 pi. Remember, when we're adding fractions, you need a common denominator. So this is 2 over 1. So to get this to be common over here, I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 8. So 2 times 8 gives me 16. And 1 times 8 gives me 8. So I'm just adding 16 pi over 8. So I have negative 3 plus 16, and that gives me 13 pi over 8. Okay, so there's my one positive answer, and I need to do the same thing. I need another negative answer. So I've got negative 3 pi over 8, and I'm going to subtract, and again, it's 2 pi, right? I added 360, I subtracted 360. So if I'm adding 16 pi over 8, that means I also need to subtract that same number, 16 pi over 8. And then negative 3 minus 16 gives me negative 19 pi over 8. So you can always do it with the fractions. You can take your angle and you can just add 360, subtract 360, and then convert it back. Whatever way you want to do it, it's up to you. I think the fractions are a little easier here just because they're very simple fractions, and then you don't have to worry about converting and then converting back. Okay, but it's up to you, however you want to do it. This is going to be our last question, number 4. Okay, so we have 8 pi over 5. So again, I would convert this just because I don't know where 8 pi over 5 is, because I'm only used to using degrees when I'm finding where my measures are. So I'm going to multiply by 180 over pi. Pi's cancel out. 8 times 180, divide it by 5, and we get 288 degrees. So now I know where that is. I can draw that out. So 288 is just past 270, which is going to be down here. And remember, we start at 0, and you always need to show what direction you're going. So I'm going from here to here. I'm starting at 0, and I'm ending at about 288. Okay, so now I'm going to find my coterminal angles. So I've got 8 pi over 5, and I need to add 2 pi, but I need my common denominator to be 5. So I'm going to multiply both of these by 5. So I'm going to get 10 pi over 5. So 10 pi over 5. And then I'm adding 8 to 10. Remember, just for fractions, add straight across. So I've got 18 pi over 5. There's one answer. And then I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to subtract 10 pi over 5. So 8 minus 10 gives me negative 2 pi over 5. And again, if you just want to convert and then convert back, you can absolutely do that too. It's up to you. Doesn't matter which way you do it. So remember, when we are sketching, you need to remember where you're starting. You're always starting at 0. This is where you are starting. This is called your initial side, where you're starting every time. And then if you're going positive, you're going counterclockwise. If you're going negative, you're going clockwise. And we just have 0, 90, 180, 270. And we can go around as many times as we want. For our coterminal angles, you're just adding or subtracting 360, which also turns into adding or subtracting 2 pi if we're talking about radians. Okay, so go ahead and try your homework for Trig Day 7.